Welcome! In this video, we will be looking at the new ADR functionality of VST Connect Pro 5.5. VST Connect is a remote recording solution that allows to record a voice talent, musician, or other performer in professional quality regardless of where they are located. This free upgrade offers an ADR toolset tailored to fulfill the highest demands of voice talents. ADR, also known as Automated Dialogue Replacement, is the process of re-recording dialogue after the filming has been done. In this example, I have an ADR session already prepared in Nuendo with all my dialogue properly organized within cycle markers. This allows me to navigate through the project, quickly spotting the dialogue to be replaced. At this point, I am ready to connect with the talent and start the remote ADR session. I log in using the credentials from my Steinberg, search for the talent, and add the user as a friend. Once on my network, I am able to connect with the talent using a unique data encryption communication system. It's worth mentioning that the talent does not need to purchase any software. He or she only has to download the free application called VST Performer, which has been specially designed to connect directly to your recording session. As you can see, VST Connect is already streaming the video from my Nuendo session to the Performer's application. The Performer also has the option to load the video file locally. This will improve not only the video quality on the Performer's side, but also the overall stability of the remote session. Latency is calculated and compensated through the whole system automatically, so that both parties experience picture and audio completely in sync. To access VST Connect Pro's ADR toolset, we go to the Video Setup tab on the engineer side. Enabling the overlays will allow us to display important items on top of the performer's video view. We can show the timecode of the project, select between a swipe or a counter, show the dialogue, have a take length indicator, show the ADR status indicator, and a secondary swipe in case it's needed. Pre- and post-roll are also available. Just like in Nuendo, there are three ADR modes. Rehearse allows you to play back the take for rehearsing purposes. Record allows to record the take on the record-enabled track. And Review plays back the recorded take. Each mode is indicated visually by the ADR status indicator with a small square at the top left corner of the video player windows. Yellow for rehearse, red for record, and green for review. Just above the video display, we will find the video view options. In this case, my main view is set to be the Nuendo video. I can also select and share a video device, allowing for immediate visual feedback with the talent. Screen share is also supported. Both the engineer and the talent can access important parameters of the monitoring section of VST Connect, like volume, panning, and effects. A talkback control is provided at the top left corner on the engineer's side. And if more flexibility is needed, Nuendo's ADR signal switchboard allows to define which signals are heard on the different ADR modes. Now we are ready to start recording some dialogue. I go to the marker containing the dialogue to be replaced and press record on the ADR taker. Nuendo starts and ends the recording according to the timecode set on the selected cycle marker. We can then review the take if needed and continue the remote ADR session navigating through the markers. After the recording process is done, we can get the HD files through the file manager. The lossless files, previously stored at the performer's computer, are now transferred to the Nuendo session perfectly in sync. Ranging from short films to massive OTT productions, the ADR process is a crucial step for delivering high-quality audio productions. And now with the ADR taker on VST Connect Pro 5.5, we can manage this process remotely in a streamlined and professional way.
Welcome to May, everyone. Happy to be here. Things just keep getting better and better at Steinberg Sessions. We got a new computer that's sitting right down here, which I'm very excited about. Took a little bit of fiddling around to get everything set up, but we got it going. I've got a brand new Line 6 wireless setup, which you can see right back there. So I'm sure I sound better than I did before because this thing is pretty awesome. And we've got an amazing, amazing guest. But you know that, don't you? We always have amazing guests, but this one is near and dear to my heart. Actually, they all are. I can't differentiate all of my friends. But Rob Wells is with us tonight. You know, his name is attached to people like Justin Bieber, Ariana Grande, the Backstreet Boys. We could just list his credits all night, which we won't do because we would rather talk to him. But before we get to Rob, I just wanted to remind you, this page, Yamaha Canada Solutions on Facebook, is where you'll get all the info about what we're doing next and what's happening. You can ask questions. We check in there and we'll answer questions for you. You can make suggestions. It's a pretty great place to hang out. It's not too active, so don't worry. We're not going to fill up your feed with all kinds of stuff. But if you enjoy this session, it might be a good idea to maybe start hanging out there a little bit more. I normally don't reveal what we're going to do next month, but I think it's important to do it this time because I've had so many requests for things to do with the front end of the process. We talk often about mixing and plugins and you know, sort of the ending parts of finishing a track, but we don't often talk about the actual beginning parts of it. We're going to start doing that tonight with Rob. But one of the things that we're going to do next week is, well, we're going to do many things. We're going to talk about mic placement. We're going to talk about how to record, the right levels. We're going to talk about some instruments. We're going to talk about plugins on the way in. We're going to talk about how to set tempo. We're going to talk about all the things that you guys have been asking me for months. And we're going to do it in a bunch of different ways. So don't miss next month. Put it in your calendar. It's the last... It's usually Wednesday, but I think we're going back to Thursdays next month. Stay tuned, Yamaha Canada Solutions, and you'll get that info. But I think it'll be the last Thursday of June. Hang tight. We're also working on some cool webinars on the Yamaha side of things for a whole bunch of instruments and stuff. So if you like the style of this stuff, you might want to check some of that stuff out. That's going to start in July. So anyway, I've already kind of given this guy a bit of an intro. He doesn't require much of an intro. He's been with us live and in person before, and you know, everyone that I've talked to that comes to these sessions is always talking about all the stuff that we learned from Rob. I've been fortunate enough to work with him a few times and write some songs, and I still carry with me all the nuggets I have gained from him in those. And while he will tell you that he's not a very technical guy, if you've ever sat behind him in a session and watched him work Cubase, that is clearly not true. However, he does prefer to talk about songs. Welcome, Rob. Thanks for coming out.
Brent, thank you, man. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh, man. Well, it was only a matter of time before we were going to harass you to come back. Hey, what's that thing sitting on the desk in front of you? What do you got there?
Oh, dude, it's my favorite keyboard. It really is. And it's not just because you're talking to me right now. I love this thing so much. The Yamaha Reface CP. I play it all the time. I play it day in, day out. I use it to come up with musical ideas. It's my main go-to for everything. For when I'm recording on VST Connect, I use this to reference notes for the singers and, you know, coming up with harmonies and everything. And just the sounds on this are so great.
Can you play us something? Tell us what you like about it.
I just love how easy it is. You just turn it on and it just sounds great. It's really easy. It's just like not overly complicated. As I've said before, I'm not a technical guy, so I just like it when things just work and they sound great and you can have so much fun with it. And just like, you know, just even, let me turn the wah off, but... just messing around with the delays as well. I think this is one of my favorite parts. You know, I just like I get so much inspiration by playing this thing. And
You could get lost in that thing, man.
totally.
It's
Like I could literally just stop talking to you now and just play this for the next 5 hours, and that'll be our video.
Maybe we should do that. That might actually be better than talking. But that's pretty cool. So you're using that not only for as a controller and for writing sessions and stuff. You're using it in productions, and you're using it for whatever. You're
totally
writing on it, everything.
Yep, it goes with me wherever I go. And these days, thanks to lockdown, that means it's here most of the time. But if I want to take it out, outside, whatever, where there's no power source, I just throw in some batteries. It's got 2 amazing speakers on it, and I'm rocking this thing in the middle of the forest and just coming up with ideas, and it's great. I love it. I mean, I only just played one sound, but it's just like all the sounds are great, and just when you start messing around with all the variables, it changes the sound so much, and just love it.
For those that haven't checked out the Reface, it's a series of 4 keyboards. The one Rob has is the electric piano one, and then there's an organ one, and then there's like a monophonic kind of synthesizer one, and then there's like a DX synthesizer one as well. So they're all pretty different and all pretty fun. So
I think the next time we do this, you're going to see all 4 in front of me, just either in a stack like that or just surrounding a little bit.
Well, I wouldn't be telling the truth if I didn't admit to at one time having all 4 in front of me and playing with them all, because they're all really fun. So
for sure.
Anyway, I'm sure we're all tired of talking about the pandemic, but what have you been doing, man? Like, it's like you're busy.
I'm crazy busy. I've never been busier. It's nuts. It's
how does that happen? We're all locked down. We're all at home. What's going on?
Well, thanks to certain technologies, I'm still able to do what it is that I do every day. And, everyone's at home. Everyone wants to create content. No one's out touring. No one's playing shows. So literally, it is nonstop with artists coming through and just saying, I've got all these songs that I want to get produced. And, it's an amazing creative time for sure.
So you say artists coming through. But are they actually coming through? How are they coming through?
They are not coming through, they're coming through virtually, basically.
Right.
And man, oh man, has VST Connect changed my world completely. It's so easy to use, and it sounds great, and I'm able to record everything that I need to record. I'm able to interact with anybody that I need to interact with all around the world. And it couldn't be easier. And the artists are really happy too, in the fact that they can just be at home and all they need is, their own mic, their own audio interface, and that's it. And then their own copy of VST Connect Performer, which is a free download for them. And it's fantastic. I've used it with writing camps, virtual writing camps, and literally artists all around the world.
Amazing. So I'm guessing this is even post-pandemic. This is part of your arsenal going forward. You're not giving up on VST Connect when lockdown ends.
Oh man, no. I mean, if there's one good thing that COVID has brought around, is the fact that everyone's really embraced technology. I've been doing remote recordings for the longest time, but not that easy. It was always just sort of like, I'm going to do the track and then I'll send it over to you, and then you can record vocals on your end and then send it back to me. And I would never be involved then and never know if I'm getting the vocals that I need. So this has just been, it's been great in the fact that nobody has to hop on a plane and travel. If I need to be working on something in England, I can do it right away, in Sweden right away. This is definitely going to be something that I'm going to be continuing long after.
Amazing. So are the artists that you're working with, are they on laptops on the other end, or have you worked with anyone that's using an iPad? Like, have you tried it that way yet?
I haven't tried an iPad. It's usually just laptops on the other end.
I was amazed. I just actually last week, because we've talked about doing some videos about VST Connect, and so I've been sort of trying things, and I just did my first session where the other person was on an iPad, and I didn't think it would work, because for those of you that have kind of followed this, you know that it's best to be hardwired into your internet connection. So with an iPad, obviously you can't do that, not easily anyway. And so I was thinking, well, if Wi-Fi doesn't work on a laptop, how is it ever going to work on an iPad? And I'm happy to report, Rob, that it maybe even worked smoother. Maybe it was
No.
maybe easier on the iPad. Yeah, it's pretty great.
So there's a
So,
VST Connect Performer app for the iPad then?
yes, the
Okay.
only difference is that the app costs $6, I think. So your budget has to be bumped up by $6, but
I don't know, man. $6, that's quite a stretch.
but it works great. It's amazing. So do you have have you come up, like you and I sort of talked a bit when at the beginning of all this VST Connect business, and we worked on some things. Have you come up with any tips, tricks that would help folks that are trying to use this, that may be struggling with some of the things? Because admittedly, I think when you first start using it, seems a bit overwhelming, and not everything is totally intuitive. But once you get it going, like Rob, I've been using it a lot outside of my day work, and just working with friends. And once you get it going, it really is quite straightforward.
Absolutely. It's the getting it going part that's a little tricky. Once you figure it out, I mean, it's the saying, it's easy once you know, right? And it is totally easy once you know. It's just getting to that point can be a little bit tricky. So one thing that was holding me back in the first couple of times where I was trying to use it and it wasn't quite being successful with me, I didn't realize that there's a portion on the mixer window where you can actually take control of the artist's audio interface, and you can select what channel it is that you're recording and how they're hearing the playback coming and things like that. So for the first couple of times that I was doing it, the artist and I were just looking at each other with dead silence, and we couldn't figure out what was happening. And it was strictly just because I didn't realize that you had to go and switch all the ports and things like that. Once I got that figured out, it's smooth sailing. It couldn't be easier. It's instantaneous how it just locks in right away from my computer to their computer. I've never been hardwired in, and it's been fantastic.
Okay.
It just comes right back in, places itself right into into the transport window, and I'm just good to go. And then at the end of the session, I just download all the HD files, and it's fantastic. It sounds great. It sounds great. I mean, nothing is better than having the person in the room with you, right? Like, that's amazing. But this fixes so many situations, first and foremost, the pandemic, the quarantine, the lockdown, and then distance. There's even an artist that I worked with that was in Sudbury, and they didn't feel like coming down to Toronto. So we just hooked up with the VST Connect, and it was great. It was totally easy.
Amazing. I think you have a cautionary tale about USB mics too, do you not? Wasn't there was an issue with a USB mic you had at one point, and it worked? Did you guys ever sort that out?
Oh yeah, that was one weird thing that with that artist in Sudbury, with the USB mic, there was like this weird delay thing that was going on, and it wasn't like I would speak and then I could hear myself again as like a low sort of boomy voice, almost like I was coming from a club 3 doors down, and then the artist would speak and then they'd hear a delay of themselves as well. And that was just strictly using a USB mic. So I find that using a mic that's just XLR into an audio interface works absolutely the best.
So that's how you solved it. He just ended up using a mic wired into an interface, and you dropped the USB mic, and then everything worked.
Yeah,
that
beautiful.
That was the solution.
That was it.
Amazing. So what interface are you using these days, Rob? You guys are going to be so sick of me talking about this. But anyway, what interface are you using?
Let's talk about what shirt I'm wearing right here, right now.
Oh, that's a good shirt. Yeah, I love that shirt.
I promise you, I put this shirt on randomly today. I wasn't thinking I'm going to be talking to Brent tonight. I should wear this shirt. Sure, I threw it on. Sure. I promise. I do have a lot of people ask me, though, what it is. Some people thought it was like a satanic symbol or something, and I'm just like, no, not at all. It's like tuning forks, right? It's just like 3 of them just put together, and it's too funny. Too funny.
Yeah. It's a great logo, and I love it distressed like that. And we don't make those anymore, but I have a couple, which I covet highly. So yeah, that's my favorite Yamaha shirt.
I love it. I think it's really, really cool. I'm very, very proud to wear it for sure. Nice. The interface that I'm using right now and till the end of time probably is the URRT2.
I might have put it up on the screen there.
There it is. In all its glory. The top one is the one that I'm using right there.
Right.
and
Yeah.
it does everything I need it to do. It's great. It sounds amazing. Again, like I just want to have systems that are portable, that are easy to use, and sound fantastic. The last thing I want to be doing is scratching my head trying to get things to work. And this couldn't be easier or sound better. It's fantastic for all that I do.
Yeah, they're pretty great. I promised all the folks out there that they were going to get sick of me talking about it, and I'm sure that's actually happening.
Well, they
Anyway,
can get sick of me talking about it. It's
that sounds better. That's
yeah,
much better.
it's great. I really, really, truly love it. It's fantastic.
Okay, so we're going to talk about a whole bunch of things today, but you sent me a session. It's just an instrumental session. Why don't we check this out? Do you want to set it up? Is there anything you want to say about it, or
Sure.
should we
Like
have a
this is
listen?
just basically an example of something that I would put together when I'm in a writing session, when I have to create a demo within 2 hours, when I'm working with someone. I never really start by making the track first, because I am a songwriter and I'm a producer. So songwriter first, producer second. And so I always start with songwriting first, and I worry about the song first itself. I never sit there and think, well, what should the kick drum sound like in this song? To me, that doesn't matter at that stage. I just really want to create a song on this alone, just playing the CP and just making it sound great with the artist that I'm working with the top liner that I'm working with. And if we're reducing ourselves to tears by the end of writing this song as simply as it is, then I know that we've got a great song. And then I use the remaining time to really quickly build something up like this. So, for example, if I'm with an artist for 5 hours, we'll spend 2 to 3 hours writing the song, and then I'll spend the next hour putting together something quick like this, and then the last hour basically getting just like a quick ghost vocal from the artist, just so that we can get the idea down and get it sounding as great as possible, to hand in to the manager, to the label, to whoever it is that's asking us to work with the artist. So
Amazing.
This here is basically an example of what I would put together after we've written the song, and just basically getting a bare bones skeleton down.
So just so everybody is clear on your process, like even though you have mad Cubase skills and you're a master of track building, you still write with an instrument first. Like you're not like, I mean, I'm sure you do sometimes, but most of the time you're not beat guy, first, or you're still piano or whatever you have in the room is what's driving the thing.
Always. I shouldn't say always, because there's some situations where you do need the track first, but I just find that especially like in hip hop, in creating vibes like that, you kind of need to have the track going, and everyone just sort of vibes off that and then feels what they're going to do over top of that. Primarily what I do is singer-songwriter and artist-driven material, and so yeah, I will always just strip it down as much as possible and just restrict myself. I don't want to be distracted by the technology. I want to just make sure that the song is great. It's the same thing like when I go to see a movie. I would much rather go see a movie that has the most amazing script and the worst visual effects, rather than amazing visual effects and a terrible script. It's the same thing with this. I want to make sure that the song is great to the point where everybody freaks out when they hear it in its most stripped down form. And then whatever you do on top of that, whatever you do on the production, it's still going to be a great song. But then it can go down this road, it can go down that road. It could be a country song, it could be an urban song, R&B, pop, K-pop, whatever. It'll still work because the bones of it are great.
So you're just trying to write classic songs. You're not really overly concerned about genre when you're writing. That's not a primary consideration.
I chase what's in the room, and that's another reason why I don't prepare stuff ahead of time, because you could work with an artist that comes in and you can listen to the stuff that they've done before, or you can listen to the demos that they're currently working on and kind of get an idea where you're going to go. But you don't know the mindset of what that artist is going to bring into the room. And, you could create something that's like this big up-tempo vibe, and then the artist comes in and says, man, I'm feeling a ballad. And then you've just kind of like, I'm sure you can use that track later on with another artist, but I'd rather just start from scratch and just chase what's in the room totally. And we always start by sitting down and talking about the song, We're talking about what's inspiring us, what's going on in our lives. And then usually within that discussion, we find the title, we find the vibe that we're going to write about, we find the emotion. And then once I've got the emotion and the storyline, the rough storyline, I translate that into this, and just whether it's sad, whether it's happy, whether it's upbeat, whether it's slow, you know, all that stuff is just all that discussion goes into this. And then I start playing, the top liner hears it, the artist hears it, if they're vibing with it, then I feel good. They start coming up with lyrical ideas over the stuff that I'm playing, which then inspires me to play something maybe a little bit more elaborate, or, you know, go to a different section or all that. And it's usually just this great, like, you know, 3 chefs in a kitchen just all throwing ingredients into this one pot.
I love that, chasing what's in the room, because, you know, it is such an energy thing, and just harnessing that is so important for sure. So amazing. So what's kind of cool about this session that Rob sent is it is 100% Cubase. There is not a single plugin or instrument or anything that doesn't come built in. And you did this in 11, correct, Rob?
I did. Yep.
I know you're still hanging out in the old version sometimes, but this was actually done in Cubase 11 as well. So. Well,
I use Cubase 11 for every single time that I'm writing online, and every single writing camp that I'm in, I'm using Cubase 11 all the way, and it couldn't be easier. It's really just like, I know I'm just barely scratching the surface with what I do, but I like the fact that it's easy right away, and I can just, like, you know, if I've got somebody that I'm writing with in Nashville that has an idea, that I can just really quickly dial something up, and it sounds fantastic. Just using the built-in sounds.
Yeah. Have you found, like, has there been much of a learning curve for you from going to from the old version to 11? Did you find it?
I'm going from 5 to 11, so there's a lot of changes for sure.
Okay.
But the core principles are all still there. I mean, it's just, you know, maybe some things have shifted around in the menu and all of that, but it's just, you know, the whole vibe of it is great. It looks great too. Like, that's a big component to me as well.
Yeah,
like, I want to have my eyes enjoy what I'm looking at, you know. And so it's fantastic. I color code everything, as you can see on the screen right there. I always color code. My intros are always sort of like as yellow as I can. Then verse is blue, pre-chorus is darker blue, and then chorus is that. That way, if I'm like way across the room and I'm, you know, trying to figure out where it is that I want to get to, I could just see exactly where we are without, you know, just seeing the colors on there rather than putting markers up.
Amazing. And you're still a PC guy, right?
I am.
You were the reason why I got into PCs in the first place.
Yeah, and I'll tell you the story behind that. I used to be Mac, and then I used Performer back in the day, way back in the day, Mark of the Unicorn Performer, and then I became a computer animator at one point in my life, and I did that for 7 years. And that wasn't PC, that wasn't Mac, that was Unix. That was using SGI computers and programming on Unix. And so once you get a taste of that, it's really hard to go back to Mac. It's just PC is the next equivalent to that, and I'm just really comfortable in the PC environment.
Me too.
Funny though, I used to go to LA for sessions with a PC laptop, and I would open it up and people would just be like, what are you doing? You know, you're not part of the club. To the point where I had to buy a Mac and then run boot camp with Windows on it, so that they just, as long as they saw the glowing Apple logo on there, they were happy about that. But they didn't realize I was running Windows.
Right. But those days are over. You're back on a PC.
I'm back on a PC. To hell with them.
Well, let's have a listen to this, and then we'll spend a little time talking about Rob's strategy.
Cool.
Here we go. We got a title for this, Rob?
Brent.
Untitled.
Brent rules.
Brent rules. Well, okay. Here we go. What a great vibe, man. That's super cool.
Thanks, man.
So,
I was just trying to imagine you waking up and walking down the stairs, and what anthem would you use to greet the morning like that?
It's definitely this, man. I'm gonna set it as my alarm now. I think
Yeah,
that's the thing. And although it'll have to loop many times before I get up because it takes me a while some mornings. But anyway, so let's talk about how, where do you start? Like one of the like I want to get into sort of the specifics, but one of the questions that I'm asked continuously is, I have a song, you know, I played it on a piano or a guitar. How do I know what's the right tempo? Because, you know, 1 or 2 BPM can really make a difference. How do you go about sort of setting the tempo and then digging in? Where do you start?
I really just hear it in my head first, you know, like it's just, when I was a kid, my uncle thought that I was possessed, man, because like I would just be like constantly going like, and then he's like, "What's wrong with Rob?" You know, and I'd be doing that, or I'd be like banging on my chest and just like constantly hearing stuff, and just so that's where it all starts. I imagine it, I feel it, and just thank goodness for the beat calculator that's on Cubase, because I use that all the time when I'm starting my thing. I'm just doing the thing in my head and just what feels right to me, rather than looking at the screen. What feels right to me, and then I'm just tapping my space bar and I get my tempo, and it just feels really, really great. I use that every time that I start a song, beat calculator.
I use it too. It's a great thing. For those of you that don't know, it's under the project menu and there's beat calculator. I've got it highlighted here. And whoops, it's on. I got too many screens here. And then you get this.
Yep.
And then if you're doing what Rob's doing, and then you can hit tap tempo, and then this comes up, and then you can just hit the space bar and it tells you what the BPM is. Or, you know, conversely, if you've got like a track, a reference, someone else's tune or another one of your songs that you think is the right tempo, you can just tap along with that and it'll tell you what it is. So you basically just imagine how it feels in your head, this like little groove in your body, and you just tap that and that's where you go.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, somebody looks at a block of wood and they know how they're going to chisel away at that to get the shape that they need. Whereas like I just kind of like, after we've written the song, I hear it in my head how I want it to be produced. I hear exactly where it's going to go. And so it's just, my imagination just runs wild. That's really where it comes from. It comes from the heart. It comes from the imagination. It comes from all of that. And then beat calculator has never let me down, just from the fact that I'm just like, I'm thinking exactly what I want it to be. And I just use that simple little tool and it gives me the proper tempo every time. So that's where it starts from for sure. Tempo is so important. And I'll give one little trick sometimes that's kind of cool. When you're doing a big epic song, Brent, I'm sure you do this as well, but like you'll have one tempo going along for your intro and your verses. And then when you get to the chorus, you actually slow the tempo down by like 1 BPM to make it just feel really epic. And nobody really realizes the fact that it's gone down by 1 BPM, but it just gives an extra layer of just, man, what's happening here? This feels really, really larger than life almost.
Yeah, 100%. In my personal template, there's a tempo track now. I think it's from the discussion we had about that before. So my template starts with the tempo track, and yeah, I mess with stuff like that all the time.
For sure.
It's a subtle thing that you know you probably don't hear, but you definitely can feel for sure. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so got the tempo. We've written a tune. What do we? Is there an instrument we start with?
Yeah.
Building the track. Do we start in the verse, in the intro, and like what are we? How do we get going?
Well, a great question. So what I'll do usually is, because piano is my primary instrument. I don't know if you can tell that or not, but I start with piano, and I'll just lay down a very, very simple piano from beginning to end, and then I'll record with the artist what's called a ghost vocal, where I'll just get them to record a one take from beginning to end, just so that I have something on there that I can just play around with. And once I've got my basic piano, then I strip away that piano. I've got my ghost vocal, and then I zero in on the chorus. The chorus to me is everything. Not just not just do I do the chorus first in production, but I do the chorus first in writing as well. When I'm writing a song, I zero in on the chorus first, because that to me is like, it's the Star Wars, it's like, it's the big epic thing. And then once I've got that story down, that I know that it works and I can listen to it 1,000 times and not be tired of it, then I go backwards and I start writing the prequels. I start writing the things before what led to that chorus.
Right.
It's like getting into a car and knowing what your destination is, rather than getting in the car and looking at your passenger and saying, where do you want to go? And they're like, I don't know, where do you want to go? It's so much better to just say, we're going from Toronto to Montreal and we know exactly how we're going to get there, and here's where we're going to stop for gas and for food, and then we're going to get there by this certain amount of time. And it helps you figure things out. So do your chorus first. That's always my rule.
It's such a great strategy, because I've been in more writing sessions than I care to remember, where you write a really strong verse and you have to come up with a chorus, and the verse is too big and you have nowhere to go. And so I guess that kind of solves that problem. It
totally does. Also in production too. So here's the reason why I start with my chorus first. Because once I've got the ghost vocal down and I focus on the chorus, I'll figure out what the primary instrument is next. So whether it's piano or whether it's guitar, and I'll do that part first. Because that way, underneath the vocal is obviously the most important thing in production for me. And then underneath that is the supporting instrument, whatever the next primary instrument is. And so whether that's synth, guitar, piano, whatever it is, I'll develop that in the chorus and I'll figure out what that thing sounds like. And then once I have that and I'm really happy with the way that sounds and it's not stepping on the toes of the vocal, yet I've created something kind of cool and memorable to the point that you can solo that one instrument and think that sounds cool just on its own. It's got its own unique hook element to it. Then I move beyond that and I start developing the next most important instrument, which is usually the drums. So how do the drums play out with what's going on with my primary instrument? And again, I don't want the drums to step on the toes of the primary instrument. And if I'm doing it properly, I'm creating hooks within each instrument, yet it's not stepping on the toes of the vocal, because it all leads up the chain to the vocal.
So this primary instrument thing is super interesting to me, because a lot of people write a tune and they've got whatever their chords are that they're used to playing, and they just put that in and that lives in the tune. So what you're saying is that you never do that. Well, never might be a strong word, but you never just, this is what I played, so that's going in. You actually start again on your primary instrument and try to make it into a bit of a masterpiece part, I guess.
Without stepping on the toes of the vocal.
Very cool.
I mean, one of my very first musical moments that just like really altered my life was my mom bringing me home this cassette tape of the greatest hits of Motown. And one of the first songs that was on it was I Want You Back by the Jackson 5. And that song is insane for how much is going on musically in there. This ridiculous bass line that's going on, this like string arrangement, this guitar part, the drum pattern is crazy after the first chorus. Like just there's so many elements that the Jackson brothers are singing these backup parts. It could be like a total dog's breakfast, but it's just, it works in such a way because nothing steps on the vocal. The vocal's amazing. 9-year-old Michael Jackson singing I Want You Back. It's incredible, and it just soars over top of this amazing production that's underneath it. So that's kind of where I reference that all the time, and I'm just trying to think, you know how great that bass line is for I Want You Back.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely,
it's insane.
Yeah.
You can solo it and just be like, my God, that's incredible. So that's kind of what I want for each part. I don't want to do just like a jam production. I don't want to do where like people are just following the chord chart and just like playing whatever. I want each part to have purpose, to feel like it's there for a reason.
So I guess if there was ever just like a strummy acoustic guitar in a Rob Wells production, that wouldn't have been the first thing that went down. Likely that would have been something that came after as a color as opposed to your primary part. Is that fair to say? That's right.
But even that, I would look for it to be pleasing to the ear still. I wouldn't just want to just playing the chords, just passing through. Like if there's something that it can do that works in conjunction with the other instrumentation that I've already put in there, then I'm loving it. And it feels great just soloed on its own as well. So another reason for doing the chorus first is I try to make the chorus as big as possible using as little instrumentation as possible. And once you've achieved that, then when you work backwards, you strip away for your pre-chorus. And then you work backwards again for your verse, and you strip away for the verse. And then you work backwards to your intro, and you strip away for the intro. And that way you don't get something that's crazy overproduced. When you go the other way, when you start with the intro and you throw in like 5 sounds, and then you're like, okay, cool, now here comes my verse. I'm going to throw in another 5 sounds. Then you throw in your pre-chorus. Oh, I'm adding 5 more sounds. And then you get to your chorus. Right. Oh man, here's 20 more sounds. And then it just sounds like white noise, basically. It's just it's crazy that way.
So all the sounds that you're going to use in the song are in the chorus, and then you just take away. Is there ever a situation where you have a different sound in a verse that didn't show up in the chorus, or is it's in the chorus and then there's just less in other parts?
There's sometimes where I'll throw something in the verse or in the intro, something that just is like unique to that one section. Just because I'm always thinking the audience is always bored, you got to give them something that just sort of lures them in, and then give them little rewards for the fact that they stuck around for more than 5 seconds. So give like a little bit of something in there, but just don't throw everything in there. Just one unique, interesting thing that you can just, especially if there's no vocal in the intro, then you need something that's in there that just really carries the attention of the lack of vocal being in there.
Right.
But yeah,
do you have any kind of like rules where like I only allow myself 5 sounds in a song? Like, do you do any of that kind of stuff, or do you just, it's whatever is working and you go with that?
Yeah, totally. Whatever's working is just on a song by song basis, just what feels right for the song.
Right.
The song dictates what I should be doing for it, for sure.
So in the track we have here, so the chorus, you would call the chorus, that's this purple bit. Let's just have a quick listen to it again, since that's the first part. And then let's have a listen to what you're considering to be the primary instrument. So here's the whole thing for those people listening. Okay, so what would you consider to be the primary, like what was the first part that went in here?
The piano. The piano was the first thing that I threw in there. And just because I did this just as an exercise, I didn't have a ghost vocal in there. Mm-hmm. So I just imagined if there was going to be something that was over top of that, just how would I play a part for that? And I just wanted to come up with a part that just felt fun on its own. And that's kind of what I came up with, is just basically marking the chords, but rather than just playing whole notes, I just thought, let's give it some rhythm. I always try to play piano as if it's a drum kit anyways. Mm-hmm. So it's like, low end is the kick, and then snare is my right hand, or sometimes in the low end I get kick and snare as well with octaves going on. But yeah, this is a great piano as well. I love this piano so much.
The Steinberg, the Grande.
Oh yeah.
Do you use this in most of your productions where you use piano, or?
I use this. I use some other samples as well, like some other VSTs. Am I allowed to talk about other?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I love imperfect samples as well.
Okay.
Which it runs on Contact. They're really, really great. But this piano to me, just like, this does it all. It's got a great upright as well. There's really probably like 2 or 3 pianos that are go-tos on here for me.
Cool. Let's hear the piano part just soloed so we can hear the primary part here. Cool. Okay, so let's hear it back in the context. cool.
And
It's
then
a
there's
neat.
things that I've done to the piano as well. Like I love compressing the heck out of it and getting rid of some of the low end, throwing a lot of reverb on it, just drench it in reverb, and then just throw a side chain over the whole thing so that it just feels like it's just got texture to it. It's got there's a real nice long reverb right there.
Yeah, so we've got Roomworks on there and compressor.
Yep.
And this is interesting, this dual filter. So that's just kind of bringing out certain frequencies that you like? Is that
Yeah, it's
how you're
just
using
basically
it?
just that whole thing of, like I said already, just being in the club 3 doors down. Just I love things like that where it's just like
Right. Very
all
cool.
that stuff. Just really sort of like just low end stuff.
Right, very cool.
Yeah, and then just throwing it all to a sidechain group.
Right, which is over here with that one. Very cool. Love that you're using all the Steinberg stuff, man. That's great. And yeah,
Dude,
it's
you can
totally,
do everything you need to do within this program. It's incredible.
well, we know this. It's pretty great.
I know I'm preaching to the choir.
Well, no, but it's, you know what, you're, I mean, I'm gonna gush now, but Rob, you're one of the people that, I would try to emulate in my work, and you're such a master of these tools, and I think your process is so unique to you in many ways, and I think it's really cool to kind of be able to kind of peer inside of it for an hour or whatever we have tonight. So thank you again for being here. And
Oh, it's my pleasure.
man, I'm overusing this word lately because we've had so many great guests, but I'm so inspired by your work, all the work that you constantly do, and every time we've done a session together, I've left with all kinds of jewels that have lived with me for many, many years after. So,
Well-
so pay attention, people.
if I could tell everybody as well that, like, when I first got started in songwriting, when I had no credits at all, I had no history of any success at all. This guy right here, Brent, embraced me like nobody else and treated me like an equal player and just like didn't care about any of that stuff. And I looked up to you so much in the fact that, we're here at this writing camp where we met, and I thought you were such a monster player and producer, and I've totally looked up to you, man. It's just like I still look up to you like that, man. It's just like the stuff that you do, you're so friggin' talented. It's ridiculous. And I don't know if people out there know how talented you are and the productions that you've done and all the musical history that you have. This guy is an absolute monster and a beast musically, but such a lovely, loving and humble individual, human being.
Well, those are nice words, man.
We
Thank you.
need a virtually hug now.
We need to. That's the problem with the technology. We need a hug button on the VST Connect. That's something we should send to Steinberg. Anyway, thank you so much. Those words mean a ton to me, and it's just wonderful to have you as a friend and
Likewise,
colleague.
brother.
So,
Likewise.
anyway, back to the session. So what went in after the piano? So the piano was the first thing. Then was it drums? Is that what you went to next?
Yeah, I went to drums, and usually what I do with drums is I'll do, a real kit, and then I'll search for a sample to go underneath the real kit. So
Okay.
I'll just like have some fun just doing programming, just me and the keyboard, just sitting there pressing buttons and just feeling what feels right. The great thing about being a piano player is that drums come very naturally because it's all percussion instruments. It's all percussion based. And so I just imagine I picture a live show. I picture the video. I just picture like what would be cool, what would be exciting. Like, what kind of sounds am I looking for with the drums? And I just go through and I audition just a few that the drum sounds in this program are ridiculous. They sound so good.
Yeah. Groove Agent and Hallion have ridiculous drum sounds, and for those of you that haven't spent any time with Groove Agent for a while, there's lots of new libraries that have come out that are like, wow, it's pretty wow stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
So when you're programming drums, Rob, so you have that guide vocal, obviously not in this track, but when you're working with an artist, the guide vocal that you get right at the beginning, like is it in the whole time that you're working on stuff, or do you mute it, work on a thing, and then compare? or does it just stay there so you have a reference all the time? Is that a thing?
Stays there unless I have to like really inspect something up close. Like if I'm doing some like light fill work or something like that, where I'm just, just looping a small section, then I'll mute the vocal. But I really do want to have the vocal in there at all times, because there's many times before where that was my way of doing things, where I would mute the vocal for a long time, and then I would come back and I'd listen to how it all works, and it'd be like, that doesn't actually work at all. The vocal has to be in there just to remind me what's there and what's most important, and how does what it is that I'm playing work with that vocal. It's very, very important to just keep it in there and just loop a 4-bar loop and just really feel what the energy is of that vocal and what it brings, and how you can make that instrumentation just meld underneath it, make it feel really good, cohesive.
Yeah, I totally get this vocal obsession. You work a lot with Chris Anderson, who we've also we had in person. We haven't had a chance to have Chris on the virtual version yet, but Chris and I had a fun discussion about the order in which we mix things, and I'm the opposite to Chris. I start with the vocal. That's the first sound. Like, I mute everything else and I make the vocal sound great, and then I start bringing things in, and it's one of the ways that I edit my own arrangements, is if I bring something in that's in the production and it takes my ear away from the vocal, I delete it. It's out. It's gone. It can't be in there anymore. So,
Yeah.
But it sounds like you're doing it right from the start. I probably have junk in mine until the mix, and then I use the mix as an opportunity to get it out of there. But
see, I'm not a great mixer, so I try to get it all happening before the mix.
Yeah. Well, you're certainly wasting less time than I am. But okay, so piano, drums. How do you decide what goes in after that? Like, I love this this lead thing that you have in here. Like, was that a finishing touch, or it's so strong? It feels to me, I almost wondered if that was your, like, the most important track. Let's just play a bit. Just the. Oh. Like, that is so strong, man. And like, so does that come early, or is that like a finishing touch after you have the textures and the...
That came pretty soon after I had the piano and the drums going on, because just because we had a lack of a vocal. If I were to use that part, if I had a vocal, it would probably be a post-chorus sort of thing, where we deliver the chorus, we get the message out, we deliver this great payoff line, whatever the title is of the chorus. And then if there's like a solo section that happens before verse 2 or before the bridge or whatever, just any sort of post-hook thing, then I'd probably throw that thing in there. I just thought it was kind of a fun little hook. I'm always looking for hooks. I'm always looking for things that can just sort of reach out and grab you and be like, oh, that's kind of cool. This is going to keep me listening to the song.
Yeah, that's an amazing part for sure.
Thanks, man.
So when you're doing these things, like, do you have sounds that you reach for? Like, do you have your go-tos, or do you spend a lot of time auditioning sounds for this stuff, or do you just kind of have places that you like to go and you just get to the music part of it? How much, I guess what I'm asking is, how much is the sound a part of the process of coming up with these parts?
Well, because I kind of hear it in my head how I want it to be, that is a lot less time that I have to spend auditioning sounds, especially with the way that these VSTs are organized, that really quickly I can just be like, I need a sound that's just like this. And it's all categorized in such beautiful ways that I can just be like, oh, okay, synth, lead, analog, bright, fast. I just click all these variables, and then I've got a selection of 6 sounds that I can choose from, rather than going and looking at a whole bank of things and being like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do now? Like, that is tremendous. And again, I sometimes have 2 hours to work with an artist, so I have to work really fast. I have to just be like, getting this thing sounding as big as possible before the artist leaves so that I can hand it in and get everyone else really, really excited about it. So auditioning sounds, I can't sit there, and I don't have the luxury of just being able to spend hours trying to find sounds. So thank goodness the way that these things are organized, man. Look at that. Look at how organized that is. It's fantastic.
So for those that haven't spent any time, this is Hallian Sonic, which is like a sample playback instrument. Basically every sound that you can ever imagine, and it comes with Cubase. But what Rob's talking about are these categories. So you choose your instrument here, and then there's like subcategories, and they keep sort of becoming more and more refined to the point where you can choose cold, dark, clear, clean, which is, as Rob says, is a pretty quick way to get where you're going. So yeah, for those of you that haven't checked out this instrument, it's pretty fantastic. Okay, so
it's beyond fantastic. It's a lifesaver.
Yeah. Well, that's a good way to put it. It's interesting. It's amazing to me, all the people that I've spoken to since I've started doing this, how many pros are using Hallian Sonic or Hallian. It's on records everywhere, and it's a built-in instrument. For those that don't know, it's pretty much the Yamaha Motif sound library. That's basically what it is. That's what you're getting. So for free, pretty great.
Amazing.
Okay, so we've got the chorus, and so now you're talking about working backwards. So then, do you do the pre-chorus section next, or do you sometimes skip to the verse, or does that change from tune to tune?
Yeah, I'll probably skip the pre-chorus most of the time and then just go back to the verse. And for a track like this, I mean, with production and with songwriting, you ever go to a party and there's like 50 people there and you're going around, you're mingling, meeting lots of people and stuff like that. And then you end up, backed into a corner talking to somebody who's talking to you about like the craziest stuff that you just don't understand, and you're just like, somebody kill me now. And then you finally meet somebody who's like great at just like conversing with you, and you have the best conversation with them. And, just like, they just keep it simple and it gets into your heart and everything like that. Like, that's really what I'm looking for in production as well. I want to create stuff that's really memorable, but really simple, and really doesn't like reinvent the wheel with every new section that's going on in there. And with pop music, it's really just like trying to invade into people's heads and try to inject something that's like very, very memorable, that they're going to walk away a half an hour later and remember this story, and they're going to remember this melody, and they're going to remember the chord structure and everything. And so my mandate always is to just be that person at the party that's just developing a great, easy to digest story that everyone gets. And so in the production, I'll do it. In the writing, I'll do it. So you'll see that in the verse and the pre, I'm not really reinventing the wheel here. I'm just developing a nice idea that then is hooky and repeats in the verse and just gets a little bit bigger for the chorus in this section. Sorry, that was a really long-winded way of just saying that the way that I do this, but it's just yeah.
It's cool. So what should we check out? Should we take it from the intro, or should we?
Yeah, we can just do it from verse 1. Sure.
Okay. So here's verse 1. So cool, man. There's so much tension with that the filter opening up. That's very cool.
It's a fun little tool, man. It's just tension and release.
Yeah, man. Okay, and so did you change some things in the second verse, or is it basically the same?
I probably would down the road. Usually I get my demos to a point where everyone gets excited by it. And then once the green light is given for the final production, that's when I go back and really spend a lot of time on things.
Yep, that makes sense.
Yeah, so for this, for the intro 2 and verse 2, there's really not too much of a difference in there.
It's the same thing. Okay, yeah. And then for the intro, it looks like it's just even more stripped down than what was happening in the verse. Let's have a listen to that. Yeah. So just the string and the piano, that's what you added there, and then the filter brings it up. It's so cool. You know what's remarkable about this for me, Rob, is that having spoken to you, I loved it when I first listened to it, but having spoken to you about it now, and having listened to the chorus part first, and sort of the density and the bigness of that, and just sort of contemplating how much the emotional and intangible aspects of the music are most important for you now, I actually am affected emotionally by these stripped down parts. Like I feel something from them that I might not have felt if I didn't quite understand. So it's pretty cool.
The emotion drives everything. The emotion of whatever the song is really drives where you're going to go lyrically, where you're going to go chordally, melodically, and production wise. It should all be emotion. Now, had I really taken the time on this and spent a couple of days on this, then it would be like, I love mystery, I love atmospherics, I love, just these moments of just just bringing the listener in and taking them on this journey for 3 minutes at a time, and I love little things that just build like this and just slowly develop into something that's kind of cool that you haven't heard before. That's really what I try to do with every production in there, but yet try to make it so that I'm not overproducing and throwing 50,000 instruments in at any one time. Just really trying to do as much as you can with as little as you can get away with, for sure.
So if this is kind of the sort of level of production you would take for a demo to get people excited, as you said, and then if they say, yes, Rob, we want this on the record, here's some budget, I'm guessing you don't throw much of this out, and B, I'm wondering what sorts of things and how much time do you spend taking it to the next level, which is the finished recording?
Yeah, it's a great question. For example, I did this thing for Katharine McPhee where it was just like piano and strings. I didn't do it for Katharine McPhee. I wrote a song with this great singer-songwriter from New Zealand, Ginny Blackmore, and it was just all virtual. It was just virtual piano, virtual strings. And then Katharine McPhee came along, her team came along and said, we really want to use this for her. What can we do to make this better? And so I went and hired a whole bunch of string players that basically played along with the strings that I had, and they just played over top of what was there. I've done many things as well where I use virtual guitars, strumming patterns, and then I'll always hire like a real guitarist because nothing's better than having the real thing in there, But I do like a mix of electronic and organic as well. It's just it really helps. If I'm doing guitars, I'll always have virtual guitars sitting underneath, all that stuff. Definitely real players. I'll go back in and more meticulously look at things and, really just search for the best possible instrumentation that I can use, like the best sounding VSTs that I can have in there. That's it. Sometimes there's a key change that's needed just depending on who's singing as well. So maybe like a slight replaying of things if we have to transpose up to a certain place.
So it sounds like you're not adding a whole lot. It sounds like some subtle sound refinement and or replacing or adding to some virtual elements with some live played instruments. That's fair to say?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
I
really try to get it sounding as close to the real thing as possible at the demo stage. I mean, gone are the days where you can just hand in a guitar vocal demo to anybody unless you're intending for the song to be a guitar vocal song. I think that you really have to go the extra mile, and you're competing against so many people that are out there that are rocking production, that are just like churning this stuff out like crazy, and just whatever it takes for you to get your demo sounding amazing, you got to do it. And a program like this makes it so easy and fast to do. It's fantastic. I love it so much.
So what are your favorite things about Cubase? Like, what are the things in Cubase that like you just couldn't live without? Like,
just the way that it works, man. Just the way that it looks, the workflow that I've discovered through it. Again, like, I'm not a very technical guy. It's just I just know that when I sit down and I look at it and I start working with it, it's to get from point A to point B takes very little time. It's a reliable program. It sounds great. The audio engine is fantastic.
Yeah.
And it's such a pleasure to work with, and just like, Yeah, I mean that's really it. You know, I'm not a mixer, I'm not a mastering guy, so I can't get into like the EQs or like any of the all that sort of thing. But it's just like as far as like going from writing to creating something that excites everybody by the end of the day, I just find it incredibly easy to use. I've seen other people struggle with other programs. I've seen other people rock other programs as well. It's just this for me personally is the one that I like the most. And I blame Chris Anderson actually for introducing it to me years and years ago.
Well, I'm happy that Chris did.
Yeah.
That's it's so great, and we all know that, don't we? If any of you have questions for Rob, please put them in the chat. We have JG the OG with us again tonight, so she'll feed them to me if I don't see them. But yeah, please ask some questions. So Rob, you're talking about Katharine McPhee's team. I'm assuming that part of that team is David Foster himself.
It wasn't David Foster at that point.
Oh,
Yeah.
this was pre-David Foster.
Pre-David Foster.
Yeah, she has such a big voice. Rob and I wrote a song at Canadian Idol with Natasha Waterman and Rupert Gale, and it's the it's the greatest song that no one's ever heard.
It came so close. Came so close.
Yeah,
twice now.
There was a time when I really thought Katharine should sing that song. She's pretty great.
I remember watching you as Natasha Waterman was recording the vocal, and I thought your whole body was going to explode just with joy. And just at one point, she was hitting this ridiculously high note, and you had your head just like down here, and you were sitting down, but your knees were just like just going crazy. You were just, I've never seen anything like it.
I wish I had the demo accessible right now. I'd play it for you guys. But yeah, it was. It's a special song that I think we were all pretty proud of. And Natasha, who we wrote it with, she has this unreal voice. Kind of, I don't know what I think she sounds like Gladys Knight a little bit. But
oh yeah, yeah. She's an incredible. She's such a gifted singer. Yeah, and we wrote that and recorded that demo in 4 hours.
Yeah, which was remarkable. If you heard it, you would. It's remarkable. But everything that was entirely because of Mr. Rob Wells. But anyway,
no, it was a team effort. Team effort all the way.
Natasha was singing this vocal, which was completely overwhelming, and I was losing my mind. So that's a fun session memory. So Rob, do you have can you tell us a story? Do you have other crazy or really fun, memorable either writing sessions or recording session stories that you can share? Is anything?
Totally. I mean, there's so many. I wouldn't even know where to start. Really. So many.
Is there any that stand out?
So many funny stories. So many stories that are weird and just sessions that went amazingly well, sessions where I'm working with my idols, sessions where it just went south completely, and just, I had one moment where I flew to Barbados to be in a writing camp, and the very first session that I got into, I'm sitting there waiting for the top liner to show up, and she finally just barges in the room, and she's like, "Hello, nice to meet you. You're not one of these producers that takes 80% of the song and leaves me with 20. Is it?" I'm like, "Nice to meet you. Hi." And then I sat down at the piano and I played a C, and she's like, no, too sad. I'm like, "Oh, what?" And then I played an A, and she's like, "Thank you, so much better." And that was the beginning of our session. We ended up writing a really good song, but it was just a little scary at the beginning. But I've had great writing sessions. Sessions that leave me in tears. The song is really personal. I've had times where I hear my song played all over the place. The last time was in a grocery store, and I felt like grabbing the shoulders of the girl that was bagging my groceries, and realized I shouldn't because I'd probably go off to jail. But it just felt like saying, "That's my song."
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's all good. I'm very thankful that I do this for a living. I don't take it for granted. I know what it's like to want to do this for a living. And so when you get a chance to do it, you got to run with it and just love it and treat each day as a gift. It's a great time for sure. And yeah, I just highly recommend that anyone that has an interest in becoming a songwriter or becoming a producer to just realize that you're at point A and there's point B and there's a way to get from point A to point B, and it's all small steps and jumps, and some jumps are bigger than others. And then you finally eventually get to your point B if you're really lucky. And then once you get to your point B, then you realize, wait a second, there's now a point C that's over here, and that's my goal now. And then you jump and you get to your point C, and then you realize there's D and E and everything else beyond. Life just continues that way with the goals.
Well, we're so lucky to have you today, Rob. And for anyone that wants to kind of get more advice from Rob, are you still doing your songwriter tips? You were doing that on, I think, on Instagram for a while. You were like...
Yeah, I try to do it as much as I can, but, I've got 2 toddlers and 5 kids in total, and 2 of them are toddlers, so it's just they keep me very busy. So we go out for walks, and that's usually where I find 5 minutes to just like do a quick tip on, songwriting, and I'll try to keep that up a little bit better than I have been over the last month.
Well, even if you didn't do any more, there's a bunch up there. So find Rob on Instagram. Do you have any projects coming up that you want to plug a little bit before that you're excited about that you can talk about? I'm sure a lot of it is undercover at this point, but
yeah, there's always things that are going on. Yeah. The problem with me, and this only gets worse as I get older, is that whenever anybody asks me this question, I am like a deer in headlights. I completely forget everything unless I'm looking at the folder that contains all my projects, and then it's like, oh yeah, that's what I'm working on. Right. I'm excited about everything. I'm excited about all the projects. I'm usually working on 10 different things at a time. I really just want to be excited about what it is that I'm working on. I want to be a fan of the people that I'm working with. And I just want to think like I'm not worthy to be there. Why would they ever even, ask somebody like me to be involved in something like this? So I'm loving it all. I do stuff in many different genres, and stuff for TV, stuff for video games, stuff for children's lullabies on YouTube, and all sorts of stuff. So it's a fun time.
Well, clearly you love what you do, Rob, and I'm so grateful that you took the time to spend some time with us tonight and shed a little bit of insight into your process. So thanks for coming.
My absolute honor. Thank you so much for asking, and I'll come back whenever you want me, as many times as you'll have me. Thank you.
Amazing. Well, we'll have you back again and again. Why don't we play the track out? But thanks everyone for coming out again to Steinberg Sessions. Our numbers of views have been really good. A lot of people seem to be watching it even after the live event, or returning and watching things over and over again. So thanks. Continue to watch. We appreciate it. We'll continue to try to make it better. Hope to see you next month. I'm pretty excited about it. It's going to be so much content. It's going to basically take me the entire month to set up this studio. But anyway, come on back. We'll talk about the front end, as I mentioned, and join us on Yamaha Canada Solutions. We'll play it out with Rob Wells and his track here.
Thanks again,
Rob.
Brent. Thank you.